All right, Brandon Holcomb, welcome to the Rep Your Story podcast. We're very happy to have you. Just going to give you a little bit of an overview, though, or the followers a little bit of an overview about you. You had a brief stint, 5 years at Radford, brief stint overseas, playing in 4 different countries. I believe it was Italy, Sweden, Slovakia, Slovenia. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay. And then came back after an injury from playing overseas and have now started Swishology. I got to ask before we get into the details of your story, how did you come up with the name for Swishology and the logo? Just because I'm curious.
Yo, the logo is awesome.
The logo is pretty
Awesome.
fire.
It's
The
so
logo is pretty
cool.
fire.
Y'all got to see the first logo. The first logo was terrible. Like the first one I came up with. I'm gonna have to send it to you guys. I so got it.
All right, definitely. How'd you come up with the name?
The name, man, I don't know. Like I was just doing a bunch of research, right? Like on just looking at different basketball companies, looking at different brands like the Slams, the Overtimes of the world, the Ball is Life. And then, just going on Google, typing in like different acronyms and synonyms and things like that, like, to try to come up with a creative name. And, Swish, that's a common basketball, right? Like, sort of term, right? Swish. So like the
We both
ology
know
part,
it very well. We know Swish very well.
yeah. Yeah. So like, but the ology part came, so like I was trying to be a little bit creative with it, right? And so I was like, man, what do this was way before I knew what Swishology was gonna be, right? Like I knew, so I had an idea, I wanted to serve the underrated, but I didn't know what direction, what that looked like, what did that look like, right? But I'm like, all right, what do I really want to like showcase on this platform? And the first thing I really wanted to showcase was actually just like not just only players, but like I actually wanted to do like breakdowns of like different players and plays and things like that. So, ology means like the study of, right? So like I was like, all right, like how does Swishology sound, right? So I ran it by Ace, who was my business partner, and I ran it by him. I was like, what do you think about Swishology? And he's like, bro, that name's dope. And I was like, okay. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna run it by some more people because I feel like the name is important, right?
Right.
So I ran it by a couple more people, like, man, yeah, you should go with that, So like, we just went with Swishology. And it was sort of like, I didn't have a logo then or anything like that. Like I said, after this call, I can send you guys the first logo that we had.
Would love to see that.
I was about to say we got to see that.
Would love to see that.
I can show you the first levels logo too. That was
So yeah, that's sort of how we like sort of came up with it. It's a cool name. I like it. It's catchy. Every time you tell it to somebody, you say to somebody, they sort of get caught up. Where I'm like, man, Swishology, that's catchy. So that's what we wanted. So it's cool.
Who designed the logo? Was that you?
Yeah, I designed the logo. It took me honestly, that logo has no meaning to it at all. So like zero.
Don't admit that though. You can't admit that.
It's true though. Like it just, what I was doing, I was on Canva. I was just playing around with different looks, and I was like, okay, I like the overtime look, right? The O. I was like, maybe O for ology, right? But I don't want the same O, like, because there's sort of round, so I sort of made it like sort of more squared off. And then the middle part actually used to say Swishology in the middle, so it would have been the O and Swishology right in the middle, but it wasn't the same font that we're using now or anything like that. It was a completely different font, so it didn't look like, it looked terrible. Look, I'll send it to you guys, but it looked awful. And then I was just playing around with different stuff, and then came across a little squiggly thing, so I put that right in the middle. I was like, man, I sort of like this. And so I sent it to Ace. I was like, how does this look compared to like this, the first original logo we had? He's like, yo, this is way better. So, like I did my due diligence again. sent it around a couple different people. They're like, that's dope. Y'all should go with that. So that's sort of how that came about. So it was all random. It wasn't like there's no meaning behind any of the logo at all.
That's
Hey, it's
okay.
still,
It happens. It happens.
yeah.
I know we're gonna get into Swishology, obviously, of course, at some point. But I think, and Brandon, if you don't have any other questions on the logo or anything like that,
Yeah.
as we start, as Brandon said, like probably has told you before, I'm really excited for people to hear more about you, like the man behind the whole thing, and to talk a little bit about your like basketball, the world of basketball before you got into all this stuff. So we'll definitely get into Swishology at some point. I'm only saying this now because like I was about to just dive right into it and I didn't want to do that yet. So Brandon Rogers, if you want to like tee him up for the whole tell your story thing.
Yeah.
But before we like just went on a tangent and talked about Swishology for like an hour and a half.
I was gonna say, let's do it. So let's back up then. So are you from California? I think I found somewhere.
Yeah, I'm from Cali. Yeah.
Okay. Let's start there and then work our way to Radford. What's the story behind that? How'd you end up at Radford?
So funny thing, I actually started playing basketball real late. So I started playing basketball almost my senior year in high school. I had a crazy growth spurt around like my sophomore year of high school. So going into my junior year, I was like just growing, just real tall, long, skinny, had no meat in my bones at all. So, me and my friends, we tried out for the basketball team for fun, in the wintertime or the fall time.
Just for fun.
Just for fun. We wasn't trying to make the team, we were just doing it for fun. So ironically, I was the only one who made the actual team, and I didn't know what to do. I had to, I sort of talked to my parents about it. They were trying. I played baseball my whole life, so I played baseball from like as long as I could remember all the way till high school, and I quit in high school. I got bored. I was playing it for so long, I got burnt out, and so they told me that I should go for it. So I was like, okay. And so I went for it. So fast forward to my senior year, high school. I'm trying to play catch up now at this point. I'm very raw, no coordination. I didn't know my athleticism yet, like fully, like my jumping ability and things like that. And I was just playing. Honestly, I didn't really even want to go to play the next level. And when I did talk about it, I actually just wanted to go D2 or D3. I didn't want to go like D1 because I felt like I wasn't good enough to play. I just started, but I had coaches who pushed me, and they were like, look, like you could go play at a D1 school, like you have the attributes to do it. I just didn't believe in myself at the time. So fast forward my senior year, we graduate. Still, I haven't even like I haven't signed. Like I'm a graduating senior. I didn't sign. I haven't signed. So I went back in the AAU circuit. I'm playing AAU. I'm already graduating high school. And I already had schools that I got accepted to just for academics that I could have went to, but it was too late to like, sort of like enroll and things like that. So I was sort of stuck. I was like very stuck. So I was in a Vegas circuit. I think it was like the Super 64 circuit in Vegas. 2011, summer 2011, 2011. And I had a coach out there who was Coach Mike Jones. Shout out to Mike Jones. He saw me play. It was his first. He just hired at Radford as a head coach. So he had saw me play at the Super 64 tournament. And so after that tournament, I had another tournament in Anaheim, in Cali, like the next weekend, or it might have been a couple days later. Mm-hmm. So the Radford head coach, he followed me to Anaheim. He was supposed to go. I think he was supposed to go like back to Florida or something like that to go do some more recruiting. But he followed me to Anaheim. So the game that he came to, I was like blocking a bunch of shots. And all the shots I was blocking were going to him. Like I blocked like probably like 4 or 5 shots like in a row, and they're all going to him, right? So ironically, I didn't know that was going to be my coach, my college coach. So after the game, just got some interest, from him after the game, and got my offer pretty much a couple days later. He was in contact with my dad, and it sort of just happened like that. And I also had Idaho State looking at me too. But Radford, I feel like was a better fit not because of like the personnel per se, it was because like all my family's from the East Coast. So if anything, my dad, like he lives like in North Carolina, you know what I'm saying? So Radford from like my dad's a 3.5 hour drive. So if anything, for the holidays, I could just go over to his house, or like maybe for a weekend, we have a weekend free, I could maybe go to his house.
Yeah.
Come up there. So that's how I was sort of thinking about it. But honestly, I didn't even want to go to Radford at all, because like I was so stuck in staying in Cali. I want to stay in Cali. I want to be with my friends. I want to like just, I don't want to go out of state, right? And like I took my visit at Radford. I hated it because it was like in the country. You know what I'm saying? It was like in the mountains, nothing there.
It's a fun spot though, right?
Yeah, no, it was real fun. Yeah, it was real fun. Yeah. It was real fun for sure, but there was nothing there, And this was before like they renovated Radford. Like now Radford's fully renovated. But before it was like still old. And that I was like, when I visited college, I did not envision that. I didn't envision Radford for my college experience, right? Like I was like, no, like, but my parents, they're like, no, we're not paying for school. My parents were like, no, we're not paying for school. You're going to Radford, So they forced me to go to Radford. So I went. And, after my first year, I hated it. I actually wanted to transfer after my first year. I even called my coach. I went home for the summer, back to Cali. I called my coach on my own, and I told him I wasn't coming back. And my parents were livid. Like, they're like, basically, if I didn't go back, like I would have to get out the house, like basically, and just find my own.
That's a dangerous game.
Yeah. So I stayed, and it was actually the best decision of my life, staying, because it taught me to man up. It taught me to grow as a person, as a man, and it taught me to get out of my comfort zone and just like get used to like a different environment, not to get comfortable, So like, I actually thank my parents for that. I think my parents and my coaches for that, like for making me stay, because a lot of people they give up or they leave early or whatever, like so. I'm very appreciative, of like the experience I had at Radford for sure, But yeah, that's sort of like the backstory. Like I started late. I was a late bloomer with the whole basketball thing. So
yeah, I don't think I've ever heard somebody shot block their way into an offer like that before. like physically block shots into an offer.
Into the hands of the head coach. Yeah.
Yeah, like physically into the offer.
Yeah. If any high schoolers are listening to this, that's the easy way to get an offer.
Yeah, if you want to go to a school, block 8 shots right in the guy's face.
But you got to aim those rocks. Aim them strategically at.
Yeah.
So I want to back up though. Like, how long did it take from when the coach saw you to when you got that offer? Was it weeks? Or was it like longer than that?
No, because it was short. It was like days, like or within a day. It might have been within a day or two, because you got to think I was a senior, and this was the summertime, so I had to sign quick. So they had to get the ball rolling. If they're going to offer me, they had to do it then, like soon, because then I had to do all the paperwork, and that took. I'm filling out all this paperwork in like a matter of like a couple of days. Where like paperwork that takes like a while to fill out and process and stuff like that. I'm doing that in a couple of days at Radford, So it was a process. It wasn't just like signed easy, and it was a process. Like once I signed, it's crazy. So
have you ever come across an athlete in a similar situation that you train now, where they're like, man, I'm not getting any offers. Like I'm a senior, I'm about to graduate, and they're like down on themselves, and you're like, yo, just literally look at what I went through. It's still possible. Have you ever had that yet?
I haven't experienced that yet. But I will say that one thing I do sort of experience when it comes to the people we train, some of the people, they think that because they started later than some of the kids they play with right now or play against, that there's no hope for them moving forward. But it's really about all the work you put in, right? Like if you put in the work and you get, in front of the right people, some good things can happen. I always tell their parents, like, look, my story, like I started late, like the latest probably you could ever start basketball and get a D1 offer and go pro. So like that was like to me, like I feel like I'm like an outlier, but at the same time, I always say like, look, your kid, or if I'm talking to the player, y'all started way before me. And y'all think y'all are like late bloomers. Like y'all started way before me. So like if I could do it, y'all could definitely do it. It's definitely possible.
Right.
You just gotta, obviously it's competitive, but you gotta like weed yourself out and put the work in. Like you don't put the work in, you don't see the results. You know what I'm saying? So, there's no guarantee if you put the work in that you're gonna see like results, right? But you put yourself in a better situation or a better position to see results just by putting the work. So that's all I tell the parents and the players.
Yeah, absolutely. So going from in just a span of like 2 years, maybe like 2.5 years, you go from like pretty much non-existent to all of a sudden like getting offers in like such a short amount of time. And obviously physically that was probably really hard for you, like growing and figuring out your body, but mentally that had been just absolutely crazy and probably like high anxiety, high stress. How do you think going through those couple of years helped you prepare to like your jump from college to pros, which is also a very similar, like you get thrown into the wolves almost, like now all of a sudden you're professional. Like, was there a lot of similarities in those situations?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like, but those situations like that I went through in high school, college, prepared me for the pro atmosphere overseas, because it's a different experience than like NBA, right? Like if you're playing in the States, it's way different than overseas. Like overseas, you really by yourself, and people speaking a different language, and you have to adapt to culture. So like I'm glad actually that I actually went to go to Radford, right? So I went all the way across the country to go to school. Essentially, I was by myself. I had to make new friends. I had to connect with people, things like that. So when I went overseas, it really wasn't. It wasn't different. It didn't feel different. It felt different because you were in a different country, but like the process was
Similar experience. Yeah.
Similar, yeah. So like that sort of prepared me, to really like get to already be like ready to adapt to like just being out there, right? Like if you think about it, there's some players who go to school in their hometown, like high school, and then they might sign with a college in their hometown as well, or their state. So they never leave their area. They never leave that bubble. They never get out their comfort zone. So if they do get a chance to go play overseas, they might not be 100% all the way used to that, and they might want to come home early or whatever, because because out there is it's all mental. It's a different like grind. It's a mental grind. The basketball part, that's the easy part. It's the mental grind of everything. Like that's just what it is out there. So yeah, but college definitely prepared me for sure for the pro level, like 100%.
Give us a quick rundown on your pro career, like country by country. How'd you do personally, and then how did you end up at the next place?
Yeah, so I played. So my first year I played in Italy. That was probably the best place I played in terms of like location wise. I was.
What city were you in?
I was in a city called Terracina. That's where we lived, but we played in a small city called Fondi, and it was right in between Naples and Rome. So like we were a train away, an hour from Rome, like an hour and 15 from Naples. So we were right in the middle. So like it was literally like the best of both worlds. So on the weekend or the weekday, we had so much free time. Weekend or weekday, you could go to like Rome or Naples for like the day and just chill, come back. We had practice once a day. It was at night because people on my team worked. They had day jobs. So we had night practice from like 8 or 9 to like whatever, like 10 or 10:30 or whatever. So we had all day. Imagine you have the whole day to yourself. Like we couldn't even get up shots, like, during the day. We had to like find different parks and things like that if we want to go get up shots. Or sometimes on the weekends we would get up shots with our coaches and stuff, like individual work. But that was a cool experience because that was the first time I went to Rome, or first time I went to Naples.
How did you end up there from Radford?
So after Radford, I signed with the agency, And that process is crazy too. Signed with an agency, Power to Win Sports. Shout out to Power to Win. Shout out to James.
Yep.
Signed with them, and he got me my first deal out in Italy, and that was probably the best first deal you could get.
Perfect.
So.
Okay. All right. Cool. So keep going. So Italy. Then how'd you end up? Where was the next place?
Next place was Sweden. So Sweden was a short stop. Played in Sweden for a couple months, and I just finished out the season there in Sweden. That was cool. It was clean water, real clean water, real clean.
Dude, first thing, not even on basketball. They had the cleanest water in Sweden.
Yeah, man, it's a little thing, man.
I can appreciate that. I mean, you probably drink a lot of water. It's good. It's healthy.
So you pulled up halfway through the season, or how did that work?
Yeah, it was towards the end of the season.
Okay.
So because they needed a big guy and things like that. So it was me, actually me and my teammate in Italy who came. We both went, which was cool.
Nice.
It was a cool little deal. And so that was cool. People there were really cool. I actually met some American people there who they live there now. They're like, man, I came out here. I loved it. I just packed up all my stuff and moved down here. I met a couple people. I met a person like that in Italy too. He's from Philly.
Yep.
He's been in Italy for 10 years. He married an Italian woman and he got Italian kids. Crazy.
I respect it.
He's been back to the States since, only for sometimes for the holidays.
I respect it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir here, man. I grew up overseas too, so I'm used to it.
What part?
I grew up in Japan.
Oh, Japan. Okay,
Yeah.
But
I'm used to it. So I mean, tons of people do that. Even teachers, teachers I had in school, they just came over and they stuck it out and married to a Japanese woman, had kids, and loved it. But it's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's crazy all the people I was able to meet out there for sure. And then my next stop was Slovakia. I didn't like Slovakia, but I played.
The water was not as clean as.
Yeah, I didn't really like it. That was my hardest year because it's bad when you don't like a place and you got to be there for a whole year.
Yeah.
You got to really it's like I said, it's a mental game. So you had to really find things to do or just take your mind off of just being there, right? That was the hardest part for me. But made it through, played really well there though. So
was it the culture? Was it the area you were living? Was it the team? What was so bad?
It was more so the area and the culture was fine. I feel like the culture wasn't that bad, but it wasn't the best, right? It wasn't like Italy or Sweden, it wasn't like that, you know what I'm saying? So it was a different experience for me. I just didn't really I didn't like it, even though I was playing really well out there. I played really well, but I just didn't really like it. I don't know.
What was the transition? How did you get from Sweden to there?
So after Sweden came home, and then that was the summer, and then that's when I signed in Slovakia. So when I got home from Sweden, probably a few weeks later I signed, or maybe a month later, I signed with that team in Slovakia.
So is this I'm trying to get a sense of how this works. So is it an assistant coach in Slovakia sees your tape and reaches out, or is it your agent being super active? And
it's usually your agent. Sometimes you'll have some coaches don't find you, but most likely it's your agent just pushing you. So if you have a solid agent who can really push you and really get you out there, then you should get some type of deal. It might not be the best deal, but you should get something. It's competitive though. There's a lot of people trying to play overseas. So the longer you could be over there, the longer you could play overseas, the better your job security is over time, right? Because once you get that veteran status, you're pretty much you can find a job, right? Once you hit that veteran status, right? But if you don't hit that veteran status yet, you're scratching and clawing for those deals. And for guards, it's a lot harder. For me, a big, athletic big like me, it wasn't that hard to get on teams, right? But for a guard, like a point guard, there's 1,000 point guards, and then you got to think too. They're in their country, they have point guards, so like they don't really need that. Like most countries don't need a point guard. Some of them do, but most don't. You know, because their IQs are so high too in a lot of those countries and a lot of those teams.
Everywhere you played, was it maximum 2 international players?
Everywhere I play,
Or did the rules change?
Some places were 2. Most places were 2. Some places were more. Like Slovakia, we had like my team. We had like 4. It was like 4 of us. Like 3.
But then is it restricted to like 2 on the court at a time? Because I know some countries do that as well.
Yeah. So we couldn't all play on the court at the same time. Like so they couldn't have all 4 of us, and it was like 2 at a time.
Okay.
Or 3. It might have been 3 too. I think 3, but no more than that.
Okay. And then what was the transition to, what was the last one? Slovenia?
Slovenia, yeah. So that one. So actually, I ended up signing 2 deals in Slovakia. So the second deal, actually no. So okay, I gotta bring it back a little bit. So after my first deal in Slovakia, I didn't finish out the season that first year in Slovakia. I left we had like 2 months left in the season or 3 months, and I left and I went to Slovenia, and then I played there. So and then I played there, the following season too. And actually, how I got on that team was my college point guard, Rashawn Davis. Their team was looking for a big, and it was like middle of the season. It's sort of hard to find a quality big. So I told him, I was like, look, like I'm trying to get out of Slovakia. I'm like, put in a good word for me, So he was sending I was sending film and stuff like that. And they were like, he was talking to his coaches, the GM. Then they got talking to my agent, and then they were interested. I was like, then they pulled the trigger. They wanted me to come out there, so I had to talk to my team. And then because I was a good high character guy, they let me go with no problems. You're right, like. And that's another thing. You got to handle business out there. You can't be out there like yelling at people and doing all this crazy stuff because that's your reputation, right? You want to get your reputation intact so that if you do get in a situation like I was, you have a choice of leaving. Like they might not give you. They still might give you. They might give you hell for it, but some teams, if you really are good to them, like they'll really look out for you, and they'll sort of like let you go, or they'll try to find the best fit for you. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to like try to screw you over or anything like that.
So then how long did you play for in Slovenia? And then you came back because of an injury, correct?
Yeah, so Slovenia was supposed to be a 2-year deal. I got hurt. I was hurt. I played hurt in Slovenia. Like I was playing hurt. My back was like killing me. I was like, I couldn't jump. Like, as soon as I got to Slovenia, all of a sudden I couldn't jump. And that's that's like my game, So I'm like, man, I can't jump. I thought it was like, oh, maybe I'm not stretching enough or whatever. And it just happened the whole season. And it took me, I love playing on that team because it taught me so much IQ-wise. But like that first month, I struggled. Like first 4 weeks, I was struggling because I was getting used to like playing below the rim and all that stuff. So I got hurt, and then so when I got back home, I actually signed another deal with a team in Slovakia. Like, because I was supposed to have a 2-year deal with Slovenia. Slovenia.
Stay out of Slovakia.
Right. So I signed a deal.
It's not the move.
I get on the plane and I instantly regret it. I'm like, what am I doing? I was like, why am I going back to Slovakia? And so when I get to Slovakia, my back was like really messed up. And I couldn't even play. I didn't play 1 game that last season. And then they just sent me home like to just rest up, like get healed up. And then I came back home, picked up a job, just while I was healing. And then that's sort of how like Swishology sort of started coming about. So,
all right, Mac.
Good transition. It's good transition.
Go for it, Mac. Ask the questions. We got to Swish.
I mean,
you got
many of them. I would love to know. Yeah, I would love to know what was when you first created Swishology. What was like your initial goal as like a company to accomplish? Because obviously, I imagine. I mean, no disrespect by this. I feel I don't know if you expected this much, like this quick. Like Swishology is a huge name now in like media and in basketball. But what was like your first initial, like even if it was a small goal, like after the logo was done?
So I mean, like I said before, like the goal was just to service the underrated, create a platform for the underrated. So you think about teams, I mean, you think about companies like Overtime, Slam, Ball is Life, right? These bigger names, they service what? They service the big name, right? And in order to get on those platforms, what? You had to have a big name or you had to have a big performance or whatever it was. And everybody else was sort of like, didn't have that, like all, everybody else, like in terms of the smaller guys, smaller players, they didn't have a platform, like, and I didn't know anything about the DMV basketball yet. I'm from Cali, so like, I didn't know anything about DMV basketball yet. I just knew that, I just wanted to service the underrated, but I didn't know how to do it, right? And, when I picked up a camera, it was like this little cheap, like little $500 Sony 86,000 camera. Like I bought off eBay, and I actually started with, I don't know if you guys heard of Team Vito.
Yep.
So,
oh yeah,
I started with Team Vito because I met him.
I've known Vernon my whole life.
Yeah, that's what I started with. They basically
he coached me in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a great dude. Like I met him at my job, and he told me, he was like, look, I started this media company like called Swishology. I was like, I just picked up a camera. And he was like, that's when he told me he had an AAU team, things like that. He said, look, pull up. Like we got, I got a bunch of teams, you go shoot. And so, I went out to Gaithersburg and, I remember the first day I shot content for him and I was like super excited. I'm like, man, this is cool. Like that was really my first time shooting basketball, man, this is pretty cool, and actually the summer before, so before that happened in the summertime, we actually hosted, the first thing we did with Swishology was host a Javante Green skills camp. That was the first thing we did. So that was in the summer like of 2019. So if you go back to the first video on Swishology, it's a woo. It's a woo of the camp. He's talking, and then we had like little highlights when he was doing his thing in summer league and things like that. So we were sort of follow. Woo was my teammate in college, but we've been following his journey like since Swish. Like he was the first athlete to feature on Swish. He was the first athlete to support Swish. You know what I'm saying? So like, I was like, should we take the event route? That was like a thought too. But then the regular season comes. You're like, man, how are we gonna do events and camps? And people are like, at practice and got in season and things like that. So you sort of had to pivot there, right? That's when the camera thing came into play, and I didn't know anything about being a creator and all this stuff. Like all this, there's a lot of politics that go on in this space. I'm pretty sure you guys know, and I didn't know anything about that. But yeah, started with Vito, and then shout out to Vito, man, because his players, they show like so much love to Swish, like from jump, and they're actually really the ones who really got Swish off the ground. And this one, we had like under 100 followers, right? Like, and they, following the page, they sharing stuff. It wasn't nothing crazy. We getting like 100 views to it. Nothing crazy at all, but, just started out really small, man. So that's sort of how everything sort of came about with Swish, just really started there. And after that, just started pulling up to high school games and going to tournaments, AAU tournaments and things like that. I was just following Vito around. I was following Vito around for like 3 months, 2-3 months. That was the only team I was doing. I wasn't doing nobody else.
That's so funny.
Now you're rocking 10,000 followers, multiple thousand views on every video. So real quick, we only got a little bit of time left, and I want to ask this question before we get off. But if unique, you have a very unique story in that you're an athlete that made it to the professional level, but now you're also kind of giving back and not only a content creator, but a trainer as well. So what advice would you give to some of those athletes that are good enough to play in college, but not good enough to go pro or kind of have to figure out what they're going to do after their careers are over? Like, how did you make that switch so seamlessly? Like, what would you say to them?
Man, start now. Start thinking about what you want to do now. That's the most important thing. Like, because a lot of athletes don't know what they want to do after they finish, after the ball stops bouncing. Like, it's a struggle for all of us. Like, I went through it. Everybody goes through it, right? So you got to start thinking about, what do you like outside of basketball? If you still want to stay in the basketball world, do you want to do training? Do you want to be a coach? Like, whatever. Like, you just start mapping all that stuff out now. A great person to talk to is my business partner, like Austin. Like, great trainer. Like, he's probably like one of the best trainers in the area. He's very detail oriented, things like that. But once he got stuck on, I want to be a trainer, that's what he was. That was his mission. Like, I want to be a trainer, and so the same thing for me. Like, once I got stuck on, like, all right, I'm about to, really be a content creator and try to create a platform for like these players. That's what I want to do, because that's what I knew I wanted to do. So just know what you want to do. That's the biggest thing.
Perfect. Where can people find you, follow you, and Austin too? Give him a shout out so people can reach out as well.
Yeah, man. Follow us on Instagram at Swishology. So swish.ol.o.gy, I think.
They know how to spell it. They know how to spell
You go
it.
Swishology, you'll find
Look it up. Swish.
They know what it is, man. They know what it is.
What's Austin's? How do they reach out to Austin?
Austin is I think at 23, age 23. So
perfect.
Follow him. Austin, one of the best trainers in the DMV. You can follow me at Holcomb _. And that's it, man.
Perfect. Hey, really appreciate you coming on the show, Brandon Holcomb. Thank you so much for all the all the words of wisdom and everything. We appreciate you. We actually, if people want to order the custom Swishology compression pants, that is available on our website as well. So check it out.